Okay, welcome to this lightning talk. This will be the last one before we go up to the A1 again and enter the Jfokus conference. And just a little reminder of rating the talks, jfokus.se/rate. And please, Marcus Ahnve, take us away. 15 minutes of fame.
Thank you. First of all, let's make sure that everybody's in the right room because I was supposed to be in C4. So if you wanted to listen to anything else but HTMX and web development, you're in the wrong room. So let's get started. First of all, Horatio gave a great talk, and he had an hour yesterday talking about the details of HTMX. I'm not going to do a shorter repeat of what he did, so I'm more going to talk about general principles and why you should use HTMX or something else, and we'll just briefly pass over the details. So first of all, let's get started with the history. When I started out doing web development, this is what we did. We had a browser, we sent a GET or a POST to the server, and we got HTML normally back. It was a very simple model. The important thing about this model was the fact that we did not know anything about the browser. The browser was a client that had certain features, but we sent it HTML, we sent HTML off, and hands off. You do whatever you want, browser. The tools we had were the links, and the tools we had to interact with the browser was the link and the form. The link to go to some other part of the web, and form to say, hey, I want to change something. Then 10 years ago or something, things started changing, and we're now living in the single-page application world, where we start out by doing a GET to the server, and we get a bunch of JavaScript back. That JavaScript starts doing a lot and normally sends an XML HTTP request to the server. We get JSON back, and the web app then takes that JSON and transforms it into HTML and gives that to the browser. And the browser and HTML is now just a crappy GUI language. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're sending stuff off. We're just using the DOM because we're in a browser. It's basically a JavaScript engine. And it has led to the modern mess of the modern architecture. This is a simple example from things I've seen. It means that we have a web app and it talks to a number of services, but they can't talk directly to them, so we have an API gateway. And links are gone. We don't have any links. Forms are gone. We don't have any forms. We even have invented the term deep linking, which means that if you're not linking to the top part, that's hard. We all know about the problems with the back button, etc. And again, this is a simple example. I've seen way worse. And the web app is not the browser anymore. It's an app running in the browser. Okay, so that's the problem. What about HTMX? What does it do? The problem why we're not using the original HTML is the fact that people thought it was ugly. If you clicked something, you had a whole page reload, and you had to do things that weren't aesthetically pleasing. You had this heavy and clunky user interface. So people, we all started out with, I can't remember the names of the earliest JavaScript frameworks, but jQuery and etc. And now we're all doing React. And so if we want to install HTMX, what do? Well, this is very simple. We just add a script tag to our header. And then we can start writing HTML again. This is what it looks like. So HTMX gives us the possibility to add attributes to tags. They all start with HX something. In this case, I have a button which does a post to update. It will do so when the event click happens. There are a number of triggers. We can do it on scroll, we can do it on hover, etc. Whatever we get back will be passed to the target, which in this case is the ID node. And I've added that's the divide there. And we will swap the inner HTML, meaning whatever's inside the node div will be replaced by whatever we get back. The difference here, of course, is that we are sending HTML over the wire. We're in this postmodern world where we're moving back and saying, yes, we're taking out the middleman. We're not sending JSON and then using JavaScript to create HTML. We're just doing it on the server. This means that we can either just return the HTML needed, a snippet. Let's say, for example, you have a mail application, you have an inbox. If you have a new mail and there's a list of the emails, all you have to do is send the LI. And of course, then the instruction in the tag is append. But if we're working with if we have a backend where we get a full page, but we just want to use something, we can say HX in the button, like in the tag we had before. We can add the attribute HX select and say whatever we get back, take this part and put it there. Discard the rest. We don't care about it. So how does the server know what to return? Because of course we can't, if we're returning snippets, we want to make sure that we only return snippets if we get a call from an HTMX enabled button, etc. Every call that is made with HTMX has this header. It's HX request true. That means that on the server we can filter this and say, oh, it's an HX request. Go over there and create the snippet instead. If we don't see this, generate the whole page. If we want to do progressive HTML, that's really easy. Progressive HTML, of course, being what happens if we don't have JavaScript. So we can do this by just doing the normal thing. We just add the action, we add the method, and we add HX. We have all of it there. And then if we don't have JavaScript, we will do the normal thing. And if JavaScript is enabled, HTMX will override whatever the standard behavior. Now, the thing about HTMX is that it doesn't do everything. It's not a framework. It's a library. And it basically handles AJAX, CSS transitions, WebSockets, and server-sent events. If you want to do anything else, pop stuff out, GUI state, and let's say you have a hamburger menu and want to move things around. There are a number of JavaScript libraries that support this. First of all, Vanilla.js, which is JavaScript. You can just write JavaScript without importing anything. But if you want to use stuff that is actually made for this world, there is either Alpine.js, which is more declarative version. You're still in the tag and declaring things with attributes. Or you can use my hate-love friend HyperScript. HyperScript looks like this. I realize now that we can't see all of it, but it's basic. I don't know if anyone here is old enough to remember AppleScript back in the day. It's an extremely ugly language. I never understood it until I tried it here in HyperScript, and it's basically this is something from my own webpage where I have a hamburger menu, and if I click the hamburger menu, I want the hamburger thing to go away, and I want to pop out the menu. And it basically says, and this is just a link, and it just says, on click, toggle is active on navbar menu, then toggle is active on me, it says in the end. This hyperscript is built by the same people who built HTMX, and it uses HTMX, the event model of HTMX. Whenever you click on something, events bubble. If you click a button, you will have the event, click event, and it will bubble up all the way up to the body. So you can have listeners in other parts of your DOM. The important thing is not to use HTMX, in my opinion. The important thing is to start have reasonable architectures. That means that we can do changes. My main problem with the modern SPA world is that everything takes such a long time to change. I've been involved in teams where we on the back end can implement something, but we have a front end team that is limited, and they are talking to 10 different back end teams, and we can push our thing, but it takes forever to, and it's not their fault. It's just the way we've organized it. If we could move back to an HTML, to the regular world where we actually push the UI and everything is just a link, we're back to the old world where things were simpler and better. But you don't have to use HTMX for this. If you look at HTMX and say, okay, I don't like it, there are alternatives. We have OnPoly, fairly popular version, and in the Ruby on Rails world, there is something called Hotwire, which is not really tied to Ruby on Rails, but so if you like that better, go ahead. They're just libraries. If you want to learn more about this, there are 2 books that I can recommend. The first one is called Hypermedia Systems. It's written by the people behind HTMX, and it's more of a philosophical look at hypermedia systems and the idea behind the browser and hypermedia, things that you can discuss over beers. If you want to be more practical and see examples of code, lots of code, there is a book from the Prague people called Server-Driven Web Apps with HTMX. The server side there is written in Node, but it doesn't really matter. Looks the same. Thank you. And if you want to rate the talk, there's the URL. And I have 3 minutes left. Any questions? If not, I will be outside and you can ask me more later.